All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's edition of our Berkeley Business Bootcamp. Once again, I would like to thank our sponsors, the Berkeley Public Library, who are with us this afternoon. Thanks to their generous sponsorship, we're able to provide this programming to you at no cost. My name is Beth Rossner. I'm the CEO of the Berkeley Chamber of Commerce. And on tech support today is my colleague, Robert Gillette. So welcome, Robert. And we're going to just move right into this. I know everyone's excited. This is our website webinar, just in time for the holidays. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to our presenter today, Sally Getch. Sally, welcome.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to of course, the tech expert is having technical difficulties presentation of call before you code. And I'm going to first, this is my cat, Basie. She joins all my calls. And honestly, I think people are much more interested in watching the cat than they are in watching me. So call before you code. All right. So this is a and apart from having a lot of cats, I have been in business for myself. There, I keep getting disconnected for some reason. Just to make my life and yours easier. So once more with feeling.
I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay, Sally, I can see your screen now, so that looks
okay. Good. Thanks, Beth. All right, so proceeding here. I became self-employed accidentally because I was unemployable. And I hope that most of you are fortunate enough to have gotten into business a bit more purposefully than I did. But the good news is that was 20 odd years ago, and I have survived. And through the course of making every mistake that I possibly could in starting a business, I have found something that I really like doing and have gotten known enough for doing that people like the Berkeley Chamber call me out of the blue and say, hey, could you give us a talk? So if you are new, persistence beats genius. All right. So I was going to set up a poll, and I don't know if I can manage that because I didn't get here early enough to set it up. But just if you can maybe put it in the chat, share some information about who is new in business, who's had a business for a while, who has just been, forced out of a job and is thinking about self-employment. When I first got involved with the Bay Area Consultants Network, there were a lot of people there who had been laid off in one or another downturn, either after yes, Beth, I know the Berkeley Chamber's been around a while. And, so they were sort of like, oh, all these corporate jobs are gone. Now we need to start a business. And some people are retired or changing careers and think, hey, I'd like to do I'd like to do something. So when you are brand new in business, it can be tough to answer the kinds of questions about yourself, your business, and your clients, um, because you may be starting out saying like, who is your best, where the answer to who is your best customer is anyone who will pay you money. Um, and that may work in the beginning, but it doesn't get you very far. And it means that anything that you show people is going to be pretty vague. So the more precise you can be about your business and what you do and who you do it for, the better off you're going to be. And that holds for all types of marketing. It's not just about your website. It's about when you show up at networking events. It's about any advertising you might do. It's about any social media. And if you have been to many of these events, you have probably heard uh, several people already talking about some of those factors and why it's important to be as specific as possible and i- identify yourself. Now, one question that comes up is, do I really have to have my own website? You may already have a substantial following on one or another social platforms. Um, and, depending on your age group, that might be uh, something like uh, something like Facebook or TikTok. And the answer is that yes, you do need a website of your own. It may be very minimal if you are super successful operating primarily in other channels, which includes, if you are mainly a brick and mortar business, but you want a website because you need to exist on the internet. The thing about these different social platforms is that you can reach a ton of people, which is great. But anything you do there is at the whim of the folks who are running that organization. So you may wake up one morning and find that a policy has changed and all of your content has been removed or is about to be removed. And then what do you do? So you have to have someplace that is your own. Um, so why does why have I picked this 811 call before you dig, which you have probably seen somewhere, like maybe on a utility truck or at a building site. And this is because there are some parallels with things that you need to check out before you start digging. And they insist this goes even if you are, just making a a small garden. I live in a housing development. My backyard is about the size of a postage stamp, and I confess I did put in a garden without checking any of these things. But the idea is you go to the 811 website for your state and you call them and they send the utility people out to mark all of the lines so that you know where not to dig. And, if you don't check that sort of thing first, all kinds of exciting stuff can happen. If you hit the gas line, boom. If you hit the electric line, zap. If you dig someplace that isn't safe or don't put foundations in, you can collapse. If you hit the sewer line or the water line, you could be underwater. And all of those things are expensive, and some of them are life-threatening. Now, most of the mistakes that you can make in building a website are not life-threatening. Some of them can be expensive. So if you are, building a website wrong, and some of the ways that you might do it wrong is, you build a website, it might be a perfectly good website, but you are expecting it to make you rich and famous overnight, and it doesn't happen, and you're very disappointed. And especially if you have spent a lot of money because you think it can do these things and then it can't, you will be angry and disappointed and broke. Falling for scams. There will be a lot of people out there, not just in the web universe, but everywhere, who are trying to sell you get rich quick schemes or magic solutions to X or Y of the sort that do not have magic solutions. Overusing technology. You pile on all the features, even if you don't need them and don't know how to use them, and they don't work together very well. And then you just have kind of a sludgy, confused mess. Underusing technology can also come in there if you are basing your thoughts about how to create your website or what it can do on things like, your experience building websites in 1995. They have changed. There's a lot more you can do than you used to. And creating inaccessible content. If you are tiny and not unknown, you probably won't fall prey to purely predatory lawsuits about accessibility, but nevertheless, if you are operating a business, you don't want to unintentionally shut out prospective customers. There was a big lawsuit involving Domino's Pizza and the inability of a person who used a screen reader to order a pizza from the website. And that went all the way to the Supreme Court, which ultimately said, yes, they had to rectify that problem or pay damages. And just as if you have a building, it needs to be accessible to people who have mobility issues. If you have a website, it needs to be accessible to people who may have visual disabilities, auditory disabilities, neurological differences, or who need to use keyboard navigation instead of a mouse. And a simple website with mostly text is going to be safe, but there are an awful lot of things that you can do in all innocence that are potential trouble. And then there are the problems where you are building the wrong website. You're aiming at the wrong thing. Maybe you really want a website that looks like Apple. I have lost track of the number of people who say they want that design. It's like, oh, okay. So do you also have a budget for nationwide billboards that explain what your product does because their website says almost nothing about that? No? Well, you might want to think about something a little different. Getting carried away, trying to do too much too soon in the beginning. Again, that gives you a runaway expenses problem. And it can also get you mired in the website creation rather than focusing on, how do we start making money with this? And not getting results, which usually is a combination of not realizing that you need to market your website. Simply putting it out there and having it indexable does not mean that you are going to have millions of visitors the next day. It does not happen. Or you're not clear about what you do, or not clear about who you do it for, or not clear about what people should do next. And so those people who find your website aren't sure what you do. You know, there are lots of glitchy, gimmicky sorts of websites out there that, uh, uh, you know, they look very pretty and trendy and all that, except that, you know, you have to spend 5 minutes just figuring out what kind of business it is and whether you want to be there. Just don't make it hard for people. Um, so I want to review some of the uh, ways that you can avoid the pitfalls. Um, Knowing the limits of the technology, uh, knowing about your own business and yourself, knowing your customer, knowing your budget, and uh, setting realistic and measurable goals, by which I mean things like, I'd like to get 10 new clients through this website, or I'd like to have, you know, 1,000 people sign up for my email newsletter in the first year. Uh, or whatever it is, you want to know something, you want to have some specific goals to begin with in order to be able to assess whether you're on the right track. So here are some of the things that a website can help you to do. Marketing. All websites are marketing websites. They may also be other types of websites, but all websites are marketing websites. Lead generation is a little bit different because that is, you know, specifically about things like getting people to sign up for your mailing list or download your white paper or something that is a more concrete step in becoming a customer. Appointment scheduling. If you have a salon, or if you are a therapist, or if you do other kinds of services, you may need to be able to have people schedule appointments and have that, you know, sync up nicely with your calendar so you don't get double booked. Product sales. Of course, I think everybody by now is aware of e-commerce and has maybe been involved with it to some degree, at least on the purchasing end, thanks to the pandemic. You know, 2020 was a really busy year for web developers because everybody who had a brick and mortar store of some kind suddenly needed an online store. And to be able to deal with those things. Event management and ticket sales. I have worked with people where events was a large part of their own business. I have worked with people who were running a service listing other people's events in the community. And those are things that your website can help you with. Providing customer service and support. You can put up a knowledge base. You can set up a ticketing system that's more on the tech side for, you know, bug reports and problems with software. And for selling and delivering classes, there are various different learning management tools that will help you so that if you want to offer either, you know, live classes or recorded classes, you know, remote or on-site, there are tools to help you do all of these things. But, okay, your website will not make you rich overnight, and it won't run your business for you. You need to know about how to operate a business and how to operate a business of whatever type you have. And you probably want to start small and expand as you can afford it. So your web platform, whatever tool you use. Now, my business name is WP Fangirl. It's because I love WordPress and I have been working pretty much exclusively with it since about 2009. But there are lots of other good tools out there. There is not really a one size fits all. You need to evaluate what you need, what you can afford, where you want to make your trade-offs. There will always be trade-offs. So the kitchen mixer is a metaphor for something where you start with a basic package that does, what it says, mixes stuff, and you can buy different kinds of attachments, the bread dough attachment and the, who knows? I don't have a stand mixer because I tend to do different sorts of cooking, but you can add on to it almost indefinitely to expand what you're cooking, and you can and that's better than trying to have everything all at once, where there's so many bells and whistles or knife blades or whatever your issue is, that it's not really good at any one thing. And also there's too much to try to learn about at one time. And again, remember, don't believe the hype. And all platforms seem to exaggerate how easy it is to use and how you can make a beautiful website, even if you know absolutely nothing. And the fact is, if you know absolutely nothing, you will probably have the Pinterest fail equivalent website. You can do okay with a template if you stick to their design and you just fill in the text about your business with those specifics. And that may not give you an exciting website or a tremendously unique website visually, but it will not look like, your kindergartner's drawings either. Now, knowing about your own business. It's all right when somebody asks you what you do to say, I'm an accountant, but it's not likely to lead people very far into details, into understanding who you are. And it's not necessarily going to get people to think of you when they encounter the right potential referral. So some things you should know about your business. What industry are you in? What type of business do you have? Where do you do your work? How big is your team? Now, I'm sure some of those things you know off the top of your head. How big is your team? In my case, it's just me. If it's just you, do not pretend that you are a large business. You will only get in trouble. So, type of business, broadly speaking, there are product businesses where you sell either products that you create yourself or products that somebody else manufactures. You sell services, which you might deliver in person or online. You sell classes or courses, educational material, and you sell content or information. You have a restricted news site. There are a few other types of things, but those are some very broad categories, and they determine what the main function of your website is. And again, that's in addition to marketing, because all websites are marketing websites. So if you have a product business, the main function of your website is probably going to be either e-commerce, selling products directly through your website, or a catalog. I have a client who sells medical lasers. These are very expensive pieces of equipment. And part of what he does includes delivery and installation and so forth. And so his website shows the prices and the details about this, but it's also a call me to order catalog function. Now, there are lots of platforms, depending on what sorts of things you are selling. If you are using a third-party platform, Shopify is one example. Etsy is another example. All platforms will take a percentage on top of the percentage that your merchant service provider charges. If you sell services, one thing you might need is to schedule appointments with people. There are platforms for this, things like Appointee, or even a lot of folks that I know use Calendly. Hey, set up an appointment with me, and we'll have a call or consultation. If you are teaching classes, then one thing you might want is learning management software to help people sign up for courses, to help you deliver courses, to help you offer things like quizzes and so on to determine whether people have completed their work. One platform that's become very popular lately is Kajabi. And if you're selling news, you want content restrictions / subscriptions, a way to put a paywall in front of stuff that you don't want just anybody to be able to read. ePublisher happens to be a very large platform to do this for newspapers and so on. All of these features are things that you can build into your own website, and many platforms offer a number of them. So I know Squarespace, for instance, can do some product sales and so on, in addition to other features. I haven't looked into it all in detail, but you have to know what you primarily want to be able to do and make sure that any solution you choose can do it. Where do you work? You may work from home. You may work on location with a client. I had a client that runs an appliance repair business, and they are home-based in one sense, but all of the work happens where the client is. Maybe you have an office or a storefront. There's an actual location where you sell products or see clients. Or you might work in a shared space, by which I mean things are too chaotic at home, so you work in a cafe or in a co-working space. So how does that affect what goes on your website? It tells you some of what you need to show. If you have a storefront, you want the map and directions, or an office. You want people to be able to get there. If you work on location, you want to show your service area. People don't necessarily need to know where you are based, but they need to know if they are in the area that you serve. If you have a home-based business or you work in a shared space, generally, especially because most zoning around home-based businesses means they do not want like streams of people coming to your house to conduct business. Generally, you only need to show your city and state. If you're doing something like daycare and people are going to be coming to your house, you may want to put that on the website. But most of the time, people aren't going to need to know your home address. And I rent a box at the UPS store for business mail because it's more secure. All right, knowing your customer. And these are most of the same kinds of things that you needed to know about your own business. What industry are they in? How large is the business? What is their job title? What are their goals? What are they trying to achieve? That is why they are hiring you or might be hiring you. And how do they find you? Where do your customers come from? If you are already in business and you have existing customers, where do most of them come from? If you have a storefront, they could be, walk-ins, street traffic. In other cases, they may come to you from social. They may come to you through advertising. They may come to you through networking. They probably come to you in several different ways, but think about the people that you have been most successful working with, and that will help you to see who is where to focus your attention. And again, what is it? Why do you have to know all these things? Because your customer wants to see themselves reflected in your website. They want to see your website and think, yes, this is somebody who helps people like me. And that helps you to decide what type of images you want, what type of colors you're going to use, what type of language you use when you write, who you get testimonials or case studies from, and what they should talk about. So, my best customers are marketing directors and VPs of marketing for businesses that are not so large that you have to spend longer creating a proposal than you do building a website. People who have a decent amount of budget and also a decent amount of authority, where you're not going to have to go through too many layers of bureaucracy in order to be able to make decisions. I know some people who love working with big corporations and government. They've gotten all of the bureaucracy kind of down pat. They're good at it. They know how to deal with it. And if you have those skills, you can make a lot of money that way. Dealing with very small clients and individuals, they usually don't have to worry about getting a bunch of people to sign off on things, but they may be less clear on what they want, and they tend to have smaller budgets. So your website needs to reflect you, but it also needs to reflect your customer. And then knowing your budget. And what that can and can't get you. I have, in my time, talked to a number of people who wanted to duplicate Amazon or Airbnb or some major, Eventbrite, some form for a few $100 or a few $1,000, and it's not going to happen. You can get a decent marketing website for $500, not from me, but and you might even manage to get a bare bones website for $100, but you are going to have to start small with your website, just as you are going to have to start small with your business. Unless you are in that sort of position where what you have come to the VCs with your brilliant startup idea, and they have thrown millions at you. And I would still say, like, focus most of those millions on creating a good project, a good product to sell to people so that the VCs are not disappointed. Uh, you know, but build a website that's really going to help you do what you need to do. Also, in terms of how both your budget and well, this is more about how where you get your customers focuses where you put your budget, right? You will, if you are in business, like the minute you get a business license or register a fictitious business name statement, you will be flooded with offers from vendors. And you will have people calling you out of the blue, trying to sell you SEO or various other kinds of things. Like, first of all, if you were really good at SEO, you wouldn't need to make cold calls. Second, my best customers come to me from personal referrals. SEO is not the most important place for me to put my budget or spend my time. Also, because there's only one of me, I can only work with a relatively small number of clients at any given time, or even in the course of a year. So, SEO, while I have done some things in my time in terms of publishing content that have helped attract people to my website so that they find me when they're searching, and that's a good thing. But that has never been my main function. Yes, sorry, I have started speaking the gibberish. What is SEO? Search engine optimization. And that is, these people will usually send you an email or say in their phone call, we will get you on the first page of Google. What they're not saying is we will get you on the first page of Google results for search terms that no one is actually searching for. It's easier to stand out in some areas than others. God help you if you are going into something like weight loss, because the competition has taken up all the ad space and all of the the natural search results, organic search results, they call them, although, nobody planted them in the ground with or without fertilizer. And you're going to have a really tough time standing out that way. So, and likewise, if you have been generating money from your Instagram account or your TikTok channel or your Facebook page, or whatever it is, and that's working for you and you have many, many, many followers, then marketing yourself on social is probably a better use of your time and money than trying to attract many visitors from other places to your website. And what you want to do, if the website is where people actually buy, is lead them to the website from your social channels and interactions. For many years, most of the way that I did marketing was in-person networking. And I would have my website address on my business card, and people could go there and they could find out some more details about what I had done and a few testimonials and so on. But the website was there more as a resource for people who'd already encountered me, a place to provide background, than a place that was the first thing people were seeing. So, think about this, because, this is something that has the potential to cost a lot of money. And if you aren't clear on what you really need for yourself and your business at the point you are now, you can spend a lot of money and get nothing for it, or just get in trouble. Suppose that somebody offers to get you 1 million clients, and they actually do, but there's only one of you, and you can actually serve like 50 clients if you're really lucky. Well, you're going to have a lot of disappointed people. That's not actually a good result. Um, so if you have a low budget, which I'm going to guess is probably true for those who are just thinking about starting a business, although if you have savings or uh, a nice, settlement, you'll have some money, but you're still going to need income. So you want to focus on creating income as much as you can and not spend too long on getting your first website up. It will be imperfect. It will need to change. I mean, unlike building a house, at least building a website is something that can be redone, and that should be. Your business will grow and your website will need to grow with you. So if you are starting out with a very low budget, or you are really not sure about uh, all of those things, right? That I asked the questions about. If you're not sure whether you want to work with people in a particular industry, or you're not sure that you want to work with um, people with a particular job title, or you're not sure if you want to work with people in a particular region, um, and you just need to get some experience. Number one, you might want to try subcontracting for a larger established company, or so that you get exposed to a number of different types of projects and clients. Um, but number two, start with a super basic website. You can probably do it in one page. Go out, buy a domain name and a basic hosting account of some kind, whether that's on a platform. Even if you are starting out with Wix, which is not my favorite platform, get your own domain name, because that you can move with you, and uh, put up a basic website that says who you are, preferably with a picture, because most people end up doing business with humans. And if you are a sole proprietor, then a large part of your differentiator from anybody else who does the same work is you. It's your individual personality, what you do, who you do it for, and how to reach you. This is part of why, every website, whatever else it has on it, needs to have, an about page and a contact page. And those things should be fairly easy to find. People get very suspicious if they cannot find any information about you. Yeah, if they don't know who you are, if they don't know where you are. Um, you don't have to put, your personal cell phone number on your website, though I know lots of people who use their cell phone as their main business number. Uh, you please do not put any information on your website that people can use to impersonate you and steal from you, because the idea is for your business to make you successful, not for your business to get you in trouble. So that's all of the slides and pre-prepared stuff that I have. So I'm going to stop the screen share for now and open it up. And I am happy to answer any questions that anybody has in the chat or with the Q&A feature or whatever. All right, Ben.
Yeah, thank you very much for this webinar, very helpful. I have a question. You had something about learning courses, and you mentioned Kajabi. So do you recommend, I'm creating a course right now, and I was thinking of doing it through Thinkific or one of the course platforms. What do you think about that?
I think that especially when you're just starting something,
Yeah,
and you're testing it out, it can be helpful to go through one of these platforms first, because there's not as big an outlay initially. I mean, it's one of the real trade-offs in websites is like, you can build a store on your own website. I mean, you can build flipping anything with WordPress. Whether you should is always an individual question. So if you have you've got an idea for a course, but you've never taught courses or sold them, one of these platforms is going to be helpful, partly because people are going there and looking for courses.
right.
And also because usually they have some kind of a monthly fee or a percentage that they take instead of needing a large cash outlay up front. And likewise, if you have a site like, if you want to try selling a couple of products, something like Shopify or BigCommerce is going to be a good place to start, because you can do a test with something simple easily. And it starts to become expensive once you need a lot of customization or different options or this kind of thing. And then, so wherever you start, it's important to be able to move your content somewhere else. I mean, unless your whole website is basically that sort of Yellow Pages ad equivalent of, this is, this is our name, this is our phone number, this is our email address, this is a one-liner about what we do, and you could replicate that from memory, then you need to be able to have to use a web platform where you could export your content and go somewhere else if you needed to, without having to redo all of it from scratch.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. So, so are you saying that if I start to get into doing this more, I might think about doing something via my own website, like Kajabi or something like that?
well, Kajabi is a platform, but you might want to say, hey, I want to own this and do more stuff. I want to move from Kajabi to WordPress and get a domain management plugin and a bunch of other things.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Sally. We have a couple questions in the chat. Recommendations for domain names, and then two more after that.
Okay, so domain names. I generally like to get them from either Namecheap or Hover, because GoDaddy, the original domain name, a semi-original domain name place, will upsell you until the cows come home. I know a lot of lovely people who work at GoDaddy. They're not a bad company, but it's just easier not to have somebody trying to sell you 5 other things at any time that you want to get one thing. And the domain name, your personal name or your business name, .com is generally still the thing that people think of. Oh, somebody asked what can be used to impersonate you. Like, don't put your flippin' social security number on the internet. I mean, that sort of thing. Your credit card number. Be careful about that. But domain names are challenging like trademarks for business names, in that a lot of things have already been taken. So you want to do some research early on and make sure that nobody is going to be suing you for trying to use their already registered business name, and also that it's available in some format that's going to be fairly easy to remember. I mean, these days, there's less typing in of domain names than there used to be, but still, if it can be a little shorter, and there's not, people are going to type .com by accident. So if the .com is available for your for-profit business, or the, .org for your nonprofit business, that is the best place to go if you can.
And can you say those sites that you liked just one more
Oh,
time?
sure. I'll put it in the
chat. Great. And
Yes.
while you're putting it in the chat, there was another question. Can you recommend, let's see, a program for making a simple site? And can you elaborate more on best practices for making your website accessible besides just having a text website?
All right. Accessibility is a massive field, but the real basics are: follow semantic structure, put headings and subheadings in the correct order, and have text equivalents for non-text items. So your pictures your images should have alt text describing what's in the picture and why you chose it. And things like audio and video should have transcripts. And there are tools out there now for making automated transcripts. Zoom does automated transcribing during presentations. Sometimes it makes rather humorous mistakes. You usually want a person to review that before you go and publish it, especially things like brand names. And the automated transcription service works great if you have an American accent. My husband is Dutch. And when he first got an iPhone, Siri did not know what the heck he was trying to tell her, because he has a pretty strong accent. A program for making a simple site. This is tough for me because I started writing HTML in 1994. And so, like, a program for making a simple site, yeah, Notepad. But people like tools like Wix and Squarespace because they're easy to use. And WordPress.com, the hosted platform version of WordPress, is also fairly easy to use. So, but what's going to be, WordPress generally is overkill if you want a one-page site, because it's a dynamic tool with a website and a lot of things that need to be updated and so on. So, like, really, Notepad, few lines of HTML, solid. Accessibility. All right. So I mentioned some of those things. Do not believe anyone who says, buy our tool for $30 and we will make your website accessible and keep you from being sued, because they're lying. It's SEO and accessibility, which are closely related, because your search engine bots that go out spidering your site work a whole lot like screen readers. So most things that are good for accessibility are also good for SEO. You have a double bonus there. And so keep it fairly simple. Have a text alternative for anything that is not a text element, and make sure that you can navigate through the site using the tabs and arrow keys, because there are many people who have trouble using a mouse or a trackpad. Um, all of us end up with some level of disability. I used to be able to read small print without glasses. No, I also notice that I tend to make typos on my phone more than I used to, that my fine motor control is not as good as it once was. And anybody who has ever broken an ankle and been on crutches for a week suddenly realizes how important it is to have doors that you can open without having to like stand and pull on them. And so, uh, uh, if you need more, hire a professional. I mean, you're expecting to go into business as a professional because you have years of experience doing a particular thing that it took you time to learn how to do. And so understand that people who build websites have also spent a lot of time learning how to do that. People who do accessibility testing, people who, have an actual disabled person try to use your website, they will tell you what's wrong. And for God's sake, pay them for it. That's hard work. All right. So Phoebe mentions a content creator who is blind and has some great material about this. Yes. Yes. And I know colorblind designers and I know blind web developers. It is possible to do these things if you are, through adaptive technology. All right. And somebody had a question about hosting. If you really have just the most basic sort of a website that's just some HTML and you don't have a zillion visitors and you don't need e-commerce and you don't need a bunch of other things, that, $5.95 a month special for hosting is probably okay. Once you start having a website which is either server intensive because lots of information has to go back and forth, so that's generally things like events, e-commerce, interactions, then you're going to need hosting that focuses on those types of websites. And then you are going to be paying more. So my web hosting at SiteGround is coming up for renewal. It's pushing $500 a year these days for the plan that I have. And, that's not pocket money for me, but it's a reasonable business expense. And I'm sure that if you have if you're renting retail space, I'm sure that you are paying a whole lot more than $500 a year for your store, your physical store. Don't be stingy about what you're paying for your online store because you want people to have a good experience using it. And the hosting that's going to provide people with, provide your customers with a fast and secure experience is going to cost more hosting than hosting that is going to provide your customers with a sludgy and insecure experience, after which they sue you because you didn't have security certificates and somebody walked off with their credit card information. Other questions? I notice we're kind of getting to the end of the hour, so I'm not sure when Beth will kick us all off.
Yeah. Well, Sally, that was fantastic. A lot of great information and some really good basics. I especially appreciate, knowing when to use the SEO and when not to, and things like that. Oh, Jane had one last question, the recommendations for simple hosting sites. Do you have one or two, Sally, that you want to mention?
Well, I like SiteGround as a good all-purpose host. They do WordPress specialized hosting, and they will also do hosting for something like Joomla and Drupal, but they do the plain, build an HTML site, and so, and you can do email through them. Although you usually want to have an email email provider for your, regular email accounts. It's not your web host because, separation of concerns. Single points of failure are things that you want to avoid. So, I have my domains registered in one place, my website's hosted in another place, my email through a third place, and my DNS management through a fourth place. And if you're looking at me and thinking you are out of your freaking mind, that's too confusing, you can do all of it through your web hosting company. But it does mean that if there's a problem at your hosting company, there is a problem with everything. So trade-offs. You're not going to escape trade-offs in business or life.
Well, I think that's some great advice to close out on. Thank you so much, Sally. Thank you to everyone who attended. Thank you to the Berkeley Public Library. We'll be sending out a link to everyone who registered today. And we'll also include Sally's contact info. She just put her email in the chat, but we'll make sure to follow up again via email. So if anyone has additional questions, feel free to reach out to Sally. We look forward to seeing you back here again for our next boot camp coming up in January. We're going to take December off because of the holidays. So we'll be back here at noon on Thursday, January 12th. We'll be focusing on public speaking. So we hope to see you then. We'll have more info soon. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Great to see you all, everyone.